hints as to where the seed of this idea came from?
Yes.
So I'm just grabbing the tea.
Sorry,
So I think the idea was I like the stories in sort of classic and traditional plays, but I don't necessarily like the scripts, the way they're told, though I feel like the kind of core of the story often is the thing that is important and universal, but if it's written 150 years ago, I don't necessarily think the way it's told or exactly what is said is necessarily relevant still, even if the message could be. So it was about, okay, how do we reinvigorate and bring to life a version of a story like A Doll's House? And then I just got the thought, which is like, well, what's kind of like a modern version of A Doll's House? And I was like, oh, well, it's sort of like The Sims, right? It's the sort of thing where you get to kind of play out, decorate, kind of learn how to kind of form social relationships and kind of build your own stories and tell your own drama and stuff like that. You know, you can be as horrible or as lovely to your Sims as you want, and there's some kind of nice stuff there, but also the idea of Nora being like a doll in a doll's house, like a songbird in a cage from the original play, I think comes into, well, what happens if not only is she restricted by society's expectations of her as a woman and therefore a mother and a wife, but is then also restricted by like the way in which she has been programmed physically within like a code-based thing like a game. How much can this idea of free will, of being able to actually control your own destiny, exist within a world where not only are the other, it's not just that there's this amorphous, invisible society and cultural way of trying to force you to do things, but there are actually people who are telling you how to do things, but then leaving you up to your own devices and then coming back and reflecting on that. And I think actually the idea that Christine wouldn't be a character and would be somebody who was like an old player of the game came super late in the process. I think that was more of a, that came very much more recently as an idea, is just to try and kind of give that external side of it a bit more of a voice. But it was sort of one of those, like, I guess, amorphous ideas, like a bolt from the blue, pretty fully formed as it arrived sort of thing. And also we tell a lot of stories about digital culture and how the world exists online, and then trying to represent those either online or in person. So this was a nice way of trying to be able to take a very traditional text and put something very digital and technologically driven into it in a way that might be fun and interesting as well. Maybe bring new audiences who really love The Sims into this new way of introducing to theatre they might otherwise not think they're interested in.
You talked about, obviously you had that seed of an idea and where that grew from. Describe the rehearsal process and what you all went through.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been rehearsing all of this week. So we started on Monday, and then Sophie, you joined us yesterday for the first time as well. But that's because we spent a couple of days, you don't have to be a sim, and the others have to be sims. So we wanted to make sure there was enough time for that, and also to like play, because obviously this is the thing that requires so much devising and improvisation, and then kind of deciding what our favourite moments are and kind of crystallising them within a sort of a very rough idea of a script in our heads, so that there's still that flexibility and ability to be reactive in the moment of when other people do things. That keeps it, I think, feeling fresh and kind of unpredictable in a way that like playing The Sims can be. Like characters can do weird and wonderful things, and if we could have people face through walls or teleport and spin around and change costume, we would be, but not for this production, not quite now.
We did try that, but it didn't.
And so we kind of started off, we read through a traditional version of the script as a read through to refresh the story in our minds, and then we had a breakdown of all the emotional arcs scene by scene. We knew we wanted to make each scene about 3 minutes long. Just if we're reducing the whole play down, let's pick that's kind of average pop song length. It's good for attention, it's good for making sure an older play that goes on for a while might not be boring to a more modern audience that doesn't, the theatre just takes up a different kind of social and cultural space. It's not escaping for an evening, it's watching something and wanting to be entertained by it. There's so many other options. And then there was a lot of improvising in Simlish. We had like a guide I put together on, well, Simlish doesn't have a true dictionary or internal logic, other than if you're one of the voice actors and you keep your own one. So we came up with like, what's the rough language structure? How many syllables per word? What are the most common consonants and vowel sounds and combinations? And we started kind of slowly bringing that on, knowing it's going to be kind of not what we want, and then slightly better and slightly more focused and slightly more refined until we're getting something looking really nice. And it happened kind of a lot quicker than I was anticipating in the process. But But I think also we cast a lot of people who, everyone here is super into The Sims. I think that helps a huge amount. Lots of directing can be casting. And again, people who are very happy to, who know more about it than I do, who can improvise actions and things that feel kind of consistent and kind of within the internal logic of the world, because they are from the games that they've been playing for ages and ages, I think. So that really made it a really truly devising and actually collaborative process. It wasn't just me being like, I have a crazy idea and you've been hired to enact it. It was very much like a much more collaborative show. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you, two-part question, did you know that as soon as you had an idea for this concept, you were going to do it in Simlish? And also, how was that to perform and devise? Because I feel like what really shone through was once you remove the words, the emotions do the storytelling, and that can be that's very Meisner, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you then have a really rigid movement thing locking you into a very so like. How do those two things knock against each other when you're performing?
I think in that Bolt from the Blue, the idea of performing it in Simlish felt exciting and came with everything. It wasn't an idea that came later. It was very much coupled into the original thought of it. We're going to take the footage and kind of put creative captions, and another part of the funding we got for this is to have come up with a creative caption system that sort of uses computer vision to track performers and keep the captions above their heads. And that's an idea I had for a while, and I thought, oh, that's actually quite similar to the plum box, the little diamonds that follow the Sims around. So again, that ties in quite neatly to the show, and it was, as an idea, it kind of instinctually unified a lot of different things I was interested in, so I kind of ran with it. But Simlish was always part of it, and I did wonder if that clarity of emotion and different way of telling a story would come through when you remove the language from there. And originally, we weren't going to have any English in it. You know, Christine's character was not from the outside world, it was going to be within the world, and then when we knew that was coming, we thought, okay, well, there are moments where that outside influence can be shown more in language. Can Nora say more things? Can Krogstad say a thing? And you realise that they have a bit more of a connection to the outside world. That final scene being English and Simlish, I think, was a really nice way of being like, there's a clear, there's a breakdown in communication here. There's, listening but not hearing, sort of thing, or hearing but not understanding. How was kind of, working in Simlish for?
On Monday, carnage. For me, anyway, on Monday, I was trying too hard to map, even if not exact words, but to an English sentence. It worked better for me when I stopped doing that, and it was more, this is how I'm feeling in this moment. I'm just expressing an emotion. And then I guess a slightly different, the very last scene where Nora is receiving questions from me. But again, from my side, it's kind of fueled through the emotion. So, for me, it was easier when I stopped thinking of the English, to be honest.
Yeah. For me, it was the opposite, I think. So I was trying to do Simlish sounding words, and I got stuck on Zs for a lot, like zebra, no, zabadoo. Like I was just stuck there. And then when I stopped thinking about what sounds Simlish and more about what am I saying, so like, what are you doing? Wabadooba. And sort of thing, doing that instead, I found it clicked for me. So it's interesting we had kind of that opposite process. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It was a bit like Meisner, I think. Like, not even thinking about what you're saying, it's just a full action. But I didn't think that doing Simlish sort of limited it, though, because I kind of felt like that was part of the characters. Actually, it was a bit like a natural thing. It felt very cohesive.
I found the physical stuff very liberating. I like physical performance, so I enjoyed researching and walking like a sim.
And it sort of opens up a new kind of like physical language for doing stuff. So earlier on, we play all the kind of simisms of like them not quite lining up when they're talking to each other or trying to hug or kind of interact with each other as like funny, but then later on they kind of at least take on sometimes a bit more of like there's some disconnection here, and you wouldn't be able to do that without already establishing this slightly kind of glitchy but fun world, and then you can take those different ways of moving and make them mean something more than just pure entertainment later on once you've established them.
It's so interesting how much we rely on our words, because like within the play, it was in the early stages it was so complicated because like Krogstad knows that you committed fraud, but like I'm not going to give you the IOU back because but then it's just a bit like, how do you sort of show that in mannerisms, and then it sort of like boils down to language. Like how we communicate with other people is more about tone and our body language rather than the actual words that we say. So it's sort of like interesting having those limitations and then how to sort of simplify down what you're trying to communicate.
We got a little stuck at the beginning of the week on in the actual play. You know, Christine is taking Krogstad's job. Krogstad wants to blackmail Nora to give Krogstad the job. And we kept getting really caught up on it, but how do we make it clear?
Job.
That Krogstad needs to keep his job. As soon as we let go of that, it was just emotion, blackmail, that's enough.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be explicitly telling the. I mean, there's a whole other character that's not in our version.
Yeah.
Like your Doctor rank exists in the original, and we don't have him at all because he wasn't necessarily for this core sort of triangle plus friend that we had going on. But yeah, I think once we stop trying to be like, how do we explain this intricate plot, and be like, the intricacy isn't necessarily important for the story. If you can just be like, this person is a threat to what you hold dear. And threatening that makes you realise you might not actually hold it quite so dear, especially when other people react to it and you see that you're thinking about it in a different way. So maybe we just have to be like threatening. Fortunately, you're already doing a lot of kind of like villain physicality. So we're like, great, this kind of already works if we just stop worrying about it and doing what we're doing, and then it's great. Yeah. Sophie, what was it like for you coming in to the kind of chaos of the project in the middle of it?
Yeah, it was so, because the first thing that I did was watch a full run, and I was like, how are they speaking fluent Simlish already? And I was just sat there like, what's happening? But I think it just works. There's something about this, I think this story and the concept works so well that like when I watch you do it, I was like, oh, I immediately understand. And obviously I know that Adults House, but like I was like, oh, it all just makes sense and it's easy. So when it came to like my scenes, it was like I understand what I need to say and what I don't need to say, and also my relationships with all three of you make sense. But I came in and I was like, how are they? Like I thought they started on Monday. I'm so confused. Like how are they fluent in a different language?
It's just
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, it was really good. I just felt, he's in. Yeah. I mean, I don't have to learn. But I also was like,
most fun for the actors, most fun thing all week and most challenging thing all week.
Tarantella is the most challenging. Because I was saying this to Chris, our assistant director, like if it was just listening to the music, like I can do a dance, I can hear music cues, but when you're trying to do dance moves, you're listening to a song that you know but you don't know because it's in a different language, and you're also trying to think of your own Simlish to say out loud as well. Like it was just too many things at once, so like we kept getting the timing way off. It was still fun, but yeah, it was challenging. For me, probably one of the most fun was the second scene that I come in, and it's constantly going off to try and get to the letterbox, to get to the letter and being pulled back. The first time that we did that, but we were just basically told, just go nuts with the cynicisms, and it was very freeing. It was very clown. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
But not for about 15 minutes.
The first version of that scene was a lot longer, and I was like, "This is great. We need a third of this." But that was a really good way that we did it. We devised longer scenes. Okay, those moments are the best bits, and then we kept kind of forgetting or losing the bits we didn't actually care about, and it kind of concentrated it down.
I found the Tarantella the most fun because I just have to be wild at the end. I don't have to think. I just have to jump around and stuff. So I think that was really fun, and that's really cool as well as an actor to be able to play somebody who's sort of like not really on a breakdown, but letting loose and like absolutely like for the first time ever kind of realising she doesn't care and not being confused by it. I think that was a really cool thing to do. But I found it really challenging, the final scene where Tobble's speaking Simlish and Nora's speaking English back. Just the first few times we did it, because there was set things that we wanted to say that was true and accurate to Nora in the original, in the classic text, that she would say at this point, that explains where she's going, but also in response to Simlish things that are happening to her and being said to her in a way that makes it sound natural, like a natural conversation happening, and not just that she's saying a monologue and you're just speaking to her. That was challenging, because then it's like I'd have to change what I'm saying based on what's getting thrown.
Mm.
Which is fun. It was really good, but it was that was challenging.
I think there's the general absurdity of it all, and just having fun with it, and just like not taking
the hard bit of the fun.
No, that was the fun bit, and I think just like not taking yourself too seriously and just sort of just throwing yourself into this like crazy circumstance and just sort of having that freedom just to make mistakes and be silly, because I think like in like within acting or like within any job, like we all take ourselves so seriously because we want it to be perfect, but like you can't always be perfect, and I think it's more fun to have things that aren't perfect. Most challenging thing was remembering the plot and speaking Simlish at the same time. It's just a bit like, so what are we discussing here? Like, what part of the threat am I doing? So I think it's just trying to remember, like, what's the plot? And like that first time when we did a first run through, it was like, what's the next scene? And we had a moment just staring at each other like, do you go off or do I go off? I think it's like...
I think I walked off and I wasn't meant to. Like Nora's on stage right now.
Like,
We're not
Which plays as well.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, one of the ways we approach this is a little bit like, I had a friend when I was younger who went and bought a bike and learned how to ride it on the way home, sort of thing. And I think that this is a sort of like, we can like test everything, but actually why don't we just get you like on the bike, let's just kind of like do the scene, okay, where does it make sense already, just innately, where does it kind of break and fall apart a bit? Oh, it's entrances and exits, it's remembering like those odd kind of crucial members of plot, you just need to kind of get in there to kind of tie everything together, but then this whole minute can kind of be whatever, and this minute is much freer as well. So yeah, I think working through those, but like a week was enough to do that in, and also very comfortably. There were never any like proper like knuckle down, we're here till 2 a.m. like let's get it sorted. It was like, let's turn up, let's have a long lunch. We'll keep doing lunch. Let's go back. We're doing really good. We're keeping it. Yeah, it's going well.
The sofas are so comfy.
It's very comfy sofas in the cafe. They're difficult to get up from, especially after a jacket potato.
Yeah, that's a good challenge.
Something I was very happy with is, so normally when we do shows, our shows are often as crazy concept as this in some ways, but we normally work with kind of about 50% people we've worked with before and 50% new people on average, so that the people who are new can look at the people who we've worked with before and kind of go, is this all right? And they go, yeah, it's fine, don't worry. But I think on this whole cast and crew, Ben's the only person that and we've worked with Ben a lot, but the only person we've really worked with a whole bunch before. So I was glad that everyone else kind of trusted the insanity of it a little bit, and that it all came together really nicely. Yeah.
The chronic insight.
Yeah. Any other questions or anything? If not, that's great.
Yeah, just a small one, but silly. But I suppose with any sort of accent or voice work, a lot of people have like a key phrase or a key word to get into character. Did you have that, and what was it?
Yes, but it changed every day. Because I think earlier on it was a lot of like hard B and D sounds, and then by this morning it was schnar. So it changed.
Yeah, so mine was Dubbeldorb, but I was saying too many Z's, so I had to go with Plubaldeep or something like that. Or Smoking Norb, something like that.
But that's the thing that we had, like, when we wasn't doing this and we was just, like, chilling back there, we was like, oh, yeah, we can come up with all these Sims phrases. And then as soon as we was on here,
in a moment,
all out the window. And I'm thinking, oh, I said something that was more than 3 syllables, and it was so good, but now I cannot remember. So I think it's just sort of taking that stereotypical Sims traits and just running with it, really. Like, stereotypes. Yeah.
I think it's really weird watching it through there, because that was probably my challenge, actually, was watching it through there, because I wanted to, like, move you guys and stop. Like, when you were fighting, I was like, stop it. And watching it through there, I actually forgot they were real life humans. It was bizarre. It was really weird. Like,
In case people weren't aware, your setup is the feed from this camera is going to your screen.
Yeah, so I'm actually watching it.
So you're watching it happen, and then we've got your webcam as well on the way recording for the online release as well. So we'll get you pop up like a little kind of Twitch streamer in the corner whenever your scenes happen. But yeah, it must be weird seeing it and also knowing it's there.
Yeah, because I forget, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're there. Or it's when you came here and you say a word, and I'm like.
It'd be really interesting to see how it evolves onto the digital version with all of the feelings that I'm having now watching the live experience to then experiencing it digitally? Like, will I have that kind of big empathy for the characters in the liveness as I do as the digital ass? It would be really interesting. And while I was having that thought, I was still thinking about the times I've watched people make. Have you ever watched people who've made their own Sims like challenges where they're like, this is a maze. I put 100 Sims that I've modelled on Australia man and Florida man. Who will survive last? Florida man or Australia man? And you're like watching it like some like sick drama. But then when you contrast that with like game shows and things that where humans are placed in extraordinary situations, it's this like weird kind of sick desire to see how people would cope with it, I guess. And we get to see that in films and theatres and also digital acts to kind of, it was like I was filming little bits for social media for later, and then like I'm not watching it through the screen, I'm dropping the screen, so I'm like really curious how I'm going to feel. And I guess I was also thinking about like Wales Interactive, and I've played a few of their like games now where I could actually move the characters even though there's a story arc, and I'm kind of curious whether that would be like some forward ambition to make things like that where maybe I've got a choice in Nora's future.
Yeah, that would definitely be, it would make sense. And in the past, a lot of plays we've done when we're like, oh, we're doing a horror story that takes place in like a parents' WhatsApp group. Well, let's perform it in WhatsApp. Or this play is about your friend emailing you during lockdown. Well, let's email you the scenes and then have you respond to them. So if we could set this in The Sims with like kind of 3D kind of captures, we're technically in a motion capture rig, not that it's on at the moment. But if we could kind of somehow capture all the performers, put them into that kind of virtual Sims like space, and then give you control of the camera, give you access to their stats, you can see stuff going up and down as the play's going on, and give you a bit more interaction and choice.
And maybe not even that, it's even like just having like I was getting a bit carried away with my imagination at times, imagining like physical walls coming up, and but like they're digital walls. And I was imagining like assets coming in, like, oh, I'm gonna, like, if you had decided, oh, I'm gonna put this in the room, just because I was watching how, like, and it was really nice actually, because I was expecting, like, the movement to be like the TikTok version of it. And then you actually did Sims movement, which was really beautiful, because it was like I was expecting I can't do it.
Like kind of more kind of like sharp.
Yeah, like
people think Sims and go, oh, that'll be like a robotic style thing. It's like, no, it's very kind of loose jointed.
They're led by their joints. It's weird. We move by like muscles, but everything is joint.
And I felt that, and it was really nice because I was just like remembering the gameplay. But then I was imagining if I hadn't even watched or played any of the Sims, that kind of like the expectation of people who were like never had that experience would be for that. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I just was really impressed by something. I was impressed by all, but you know.
It's always like it's a thing we always try and consider that like a recording of a thing is going to have a different quality of liveness. You have to direct it appropriately. It's where a lot of recorded bit of Fall Down is in not considering that or directing for it specifically. That's why we have a separate camera on Sophie that also feels like is framed in a way that would make sense if you're watching someone watching a game. And even though we've just got like kind of like the one GoPro up, we're recording sound from all different kind of directions. And we're going to add little extra bits on it. But also this is just the R&D stage at the moment. It's a short little thing, and the logical endpoint of that is going to be we just need more budget and more time, but not necessarily more rehearsal time for a show, more time to kind of figure out that element of it. But that is one of our main things we're most interested in, is that distinction between like digital liveness. How do you, like you said, how do you connect with a thing when you've got tabs open and notifications coming up as well on the thing you're looking at, rather than a theatre space where you decide to shut everything up. Looking forward to seeing how it goes. Well, thank you for coming, everybody. that's the end of the day. Feel free to. It's just gone past 1, and there's no particular rush to head anywhere. So feel free to mill around while we continue to, if you want to. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Dismantling.